It was one of the quickest turnarounds in AFL history. A horrid 2016 for Richmond left them seemingly lost for answers. From the outside, Damien Hardwick along with other assistants and staff members looked finished. Their fate and future at the Richmond Football Club will be decided in a 10-week review of the entire operation. A 1-6 start in 2016 basically put finals out of the equation and heaped near unbearable pressure on Hardwick. It was already pointed out early in April that season that Richmond were moving backwards. Slow ball movement, no energy on and off the field, resulted in a big club that was flailing. Some of the losses throughout the season were truly horrific, with 6 being over 50 points, including a 113-point demolition to Sydney in the final round of the year. The loss was almost overshadowed by Hardwick admitting after the round 15 loss to Port Adelaide, the club had packed up for the year. He said, "They put all our eggs into 2017 and followed up with, we played a side tonight that was playing for something. We were probably looking more for season 2017, more so than the result tonight." They ended the season with 8 wins and 14 losses and instantly began the 10-week process that would define the club's future. They were criticised heavily for their silence early in the year, but President Peggy O'Neill and CEO Brendan Gale handed over the reins to Craig Mitchell. Mitchell had interviewed the industry's best, from CEOs, coaches, board members and even players, which helped him develop a 9-step checklist to accurately determine the issues in a club and how to improve them. The exact ratings aren't available for each of the 9 steps, but the Herald Sun article released a year later details the changes that were made. It would take too long to go through each of the steps, but here were the critical moves made in the off-season. Starting off with the coaching, Hardwick received enough backing from players, people in the club and the board to survive. His panel not so much. Ross Smith, Greg Meller and Mark Williams were gone, replaced by Justin Lepich, Craig McRae moving into development and Blake Caracella. Neil Baum took over as General Manager of Football, allowing Dan Richardson to focus on managing the football talent. Everyone had clear roles and were now on the same page. Next up was culture and mental strength, HHH, hardship, highlight and hero. These were sessions to build deeper connections with each other and build a bond to create a literal brotherhood. It was effective straight away. It built a real trust and emotional involvement with each other, which we'll come back to. Finally, player development and list management. Matthew Clark was now National Recruiting Manager and further development systems were put in place at the club, but will not further explain in the article. Overall, these off-season changes did a few things. It surrounded Hardwick with experienced coaches that could outline a game plan to foster, easing pressure on Hardwick and creating a clear plan to follow on the field. The 3 H's brought the club so much closer together as everyone was in communication with each other, allowing players to be themselves, tell their past and feel like everyone around them cared. If you do this off the field, then the same will happen on the field. Lastly, analysing the players who met these standards and could fit in the new game plan allowed list management to get rid of players and, more importantly, target those who could help. All this looks good on paper, but how would it translate over a pre-season and then round 1?
Bouncy, Martin Lee pops it up beautifully and gives the kid a chance, Gives Butler his first goal in AFL.
Foot race against Rowe, he's just knocked it down. The second effort's pretty good. Can he still keeps his feet off the ground? Can he? It's gone through!
Start.
Martin again, can he add to the tally? That is just something special. It's brilliant. It is so good. So it's a big crowd on an opening night. Night 1, game 1.
That is how you put on a show. It was an exciting round 1 win over Carlton and would continue on. Richmond went on a 5-game win streak to start 2017. There really was something different about these Tigers. Fast forward to their round 4 win over Brisbane and it was clear the 22 were winning games and not the Stars. Dustin Martin was quiet with 16 disposals. Cochin and Hooley both registered just 20 touches. But the stats highlighted an interesting trio. Daniel Rioli kicked 2 goals, Jason Castagna kicked 4, and Dan Butler chipped in with 1. The match report highlighted the havoc they caused inside 50. The trio were an important part of a big change. In 2016, Richmond were dead last in pressure acts with 251.5 per game. In 2017, they increased that to 302.7. In 2016, they were dead last for tackles inside 50 at just 8.2 per game. And guess what? In 2017, they went all the way up to number 1 with 14.3 per game, thanks to the before mentioned trio. It was clear: kick it down to the forward line quickly to Rewalt or another tall, and either crumb the ball or tackle and pressure the opposition to lock it in the forward half. Simple but genius.
Down the spine, 1 minute 14 left. This could be double deja vu. Giants won it late last week. Cameron maybe for the game. Oh no! The miracle! Double deja vu. The horror of getting your heart ripped out twice in 2 weeks, and the Giants twice in 2 weeks.
That was not so simple and genius. That is a 4-game losing streak, including those last 2 games with heartbreaking final kick losses. But things were different. The round 6 loss away to Adelaide was by 76 points and was the big blemish, but the following week they lost by under a kick to the reigning premiers. So at round 9, the Tigers now sat 5-4. Perhaps in previous years, panic would have set in, but sometimes there are positives in close losses that the team can learn from. They stayed calm and kept the positivity in the club. The shaky streak was settled in a nice 5-game span with 4 wins. They held off the Bombers in the Dreamtime game, destroyed the Kangaroos, defeated the Blues a second time and beat the Power in South Australia. The only loss came to the Swans, who charged back in the last quarter to win by a kick and a half. The scorelines of these games continued on a great trend for the back 6. In the 5-game stretch, the most points they conceded was just 80 to the Swans in round 13, and the average points against was just 66.6. It was a backline that could not only stop you, but could counter back. They conceded the least goals per game, second least shots on goal, while being first for 1v1 win percentage in 2017. That's as good as a defence can be. It was led by Alex Rance, who was on his way to being named in his 4th All-Australian team straight, and would be captain. Brandon Ellis, Bashar Hooley and Nick Vlosten could all do their part in rebounding and intercepting, while David Asprey and Dylan Grimes' play was probably overshadowed at the time by Rance, and it was only when he retired the other two's ability was on show. It was a very good defence and the stats showed it. Hardwick summed it up pretty well. The really good wake-up call against the Saints came from nowhere. A prime-time round 16 clash with St Kilda was nationally televised, and Richmond laid the biggest egg of their season. It's actually hard to believe that they were down 92-10 at the half. They got destroyed in every phase and team stat. In retrospect, these types of losses can be the best thing to happen. They put everyone on edge and give little bits of motivation to be prepared in the future. It could be the best 67-point loss Richmond ever had. From this point onwards, they took off and timed their run perfectly. The last 7 games included 6 comfortable and controlled Richmond wins, playing their chaotic and fast-paced system. New ruck Toby Nankervis established himself as the number 1 man and used his physicality well while filling up holes long down the line. Boom recruit Dion Prestia missed just 1 of the games, and his 2-way running made him fit in nicely to the midfield. On the field, it was all clicking, and the close losses early to go alongside the debacle against the Saints allowed this Richmond side to get rid of the grease and become a well-oiled machine. There was just one distraction off the field heading into finals. It grew and grew as every round passed. Would Dustin Martin stay at Richmond or leave to North Melbourne? Either way, his career best season meant a big payday was coming to him. He met with North players and officials multiple times and even headed over to New Zealand to meet with his father to discuss his future. The news came through fittingly just after round 23.
And we start with exclusive breaking news on Dustin Martin's contract.
With reports this afternoon, Martin has agreed to stay at Richmond.
Dustin Martin will be a Tiger for life.
The amount of money he turned down to stay with us is life-changing. And that's the sort of person he is. He's incredibly loyal.
There is good timing and then there is perfect timing. What a way to head in the finals. The Tigers' 15 wins got them third place on the ladder, and a qualifying final against Geelong was in front of them. It was a battle up until a minute left in the third quarter. Champion Dustin Martin won a critical one-on-one against Tom Stewart, launching an attack with a re-wolt kick, leading to Prestia walking in for a goal. It epitomised the new Richmond. A Cochin spin-away goal was the icing on the cake, and it was clear the team with the most momentum was now the Tigers. And remember the HHH? Well, the brotherhood it formed was perfectly displayed as Ellis collided with Dangerfield in a big hit. The reaction tells it all.
Doesn't get it away very far. No, not very effectively. Like Tigers around the footy. Brandon Ellis copped a bit of collateral damage. Paddy Dangerfield, look at them get in and congratulate Brandon Ellis.
After a week off, the young Giants came to the MCG. It was a 95% Richmond crowd, and the first goal topped the sound chart. Similar to the qualifying final, the Giants hung in, but Rioli's 4 goals and Dusty's 3 guided a dominant second half, resulting in a 36-point win. The build-up was big, Martin won the Brownlow, the hype was unbelievable, and the new opponent was the scoring specialist Adelaide Crows in the grand final.
After you run through the banner, you go there and there's like an old schoolyard photo. I look at our players, and our players are smiling and laughing, hands on shoulders. And I reckon I look at that straight away, easy in hindsight, I know, but I think we're never going to lose this game today.
The attitude they established early in the pre-season carried through, even in the biggest game. Behind at the first break, the speed, forward-thinking mindset broke the game apart for the Tigers, leading to a last quarter celebration 37 years in the making. The pressure forwards ran all day, the defence held the Crows to just 60 points, role players in Kane Lambert, Sean Grigg, Camden McIntosh did their part, and the Stars performed well. In hindsight, it was an incredibly well-balanced side with some superstars surrounded by hard-working, two-way players. And in a sense, everyone sacrificed. The pressure meter burst in 2016, but the changes helped everyone relax and take their minds off results. This in turn led to great results. From this point, the rest is history. The Tigers dominated 2018, but a prelim final blip cost them. However, Flags in 2019 and 2020 completed a dynasty. The foundation was built in a simple 10-week review. 2.5 months really did change the club's future. Their 2017 story shows change can happen quickly, reveals the importance of connection at all levels, and conveys how paramount it is to make an environment feel as free as possible. It gives hope to all clubs, no matter how bad their situation is.